and to get your thoughts on the future. Where do you think jazz radio is headed? Who'd like to start with that? Willard?
Yeah, I'll start with that only from the standpoint of saying that I have arguments with friends of mine about the future of terrestrial radio all the time. And I think that there is going to be a place for terrestrial radio, at least for the remainder of my lifetime, which is not that long. Yeah, I shouldn't say that, but which is,
what are you telling us?
which at this advanced stage that I'm at now,
I'm 71.
Is not as long as it is for Lydia, for example. But let's just say that I see a place for terrestrial radio all the time, and the one danger is whether technology catches up in terms of the automobile listening experience, because radio is very much tied to the car experience. Terrestrial radio, I mean, and so that is one of the last great frontiers of terrestrial radio. But I do see a place for terrestrial radio because, as I said earlier in my exchange with Thurston, I think that we deliver things that the Pandoras and the iTunes radios of the world, A, aren't interested in delivering, and B, cannot possibly deliver the kinds of things that we can.
Thurston, where's jazz radio going?
Nowhere. It's not disappearing. You know, I have this here, and I can send it to you individually. I talked with a friend of mine who did a study and a presentation for us. And again, I encourage you, bring folks in who know radio. Bring them into your shop. You got to learn radio. His study shows that he did it from 2008 to 2018. That nothing's going to happen, and for the foreseeable future, analog radio is not going anywhere. Now, Willard was just talking about television. Well, what Skip showed me is that many new cars are moving toward data that would allow them. You know, they've got this little radio on this television screen on your dashboard. They're working on technology that would allow you to pull up any station and put it there so that you can hear it in your car. It's called.
Yeah, but drivers aren't going to be watching television. They can't.
Well, no. Let me rephrase that for you, pal.
Okay.
Drivers shouldn't be. But when I'm watching police officers and bus drivers and moms driving with a phone to the ear, I'm screaming at them. Anyway. They were working at of combining audio, analog radio with cars, and so I don't think it's going anywhere. It's there. There are many radio folks who are saying that radio is doing radio, not public radio, not jazz radio, but radio is doing a poor job of selling itself to the people.
Thank you.
That's
absolutely.
An perspective.
Yes.
Steve Schwartz, optimistic about the future of jazz radio?
I have to really say no. I don't listen to radio anymore. I download stuff from iTunes. I'm very lucky to still get promotional CDs from record labels and promoters, even though I'm not on the air. I don't get as many as I used to. But the wonderful late Dick LaPalme said, "Steve, don't worry about it. I'll send you stuff. Just open your windows in your living room, put the stereo on high, and people will hear it." I wish I could say something differently, but I used to listen to radio all the time. There was Tony Chinamo on WGBH, and Steve Ellman on WGBH, and Eric, of course, was on 4 or 5 nights a week before I even got there. And in the 30 years that I was there, we became musical partners of sorts, and I don't hear that anymore. I hear the music online, but again, I don't hear it promoting any local events or local musicians, and again, that's what I miss most about not being on the radio, is the ability to tell people that this young student, Robert Glasper, is coming into our studio next Friday night to do a live performance, or Roy Hargrove, or Donald Harrison, or Branford Marsalis, or all of these people, and many, many more. came through Berkeley. So I'll be there. If it comes back, I'll be there.
Well,
Okay.
Steve, you raised an interesting rhetorical question, I guess, and that is, if we weren't in radio, would we be listening to radio? I don't have an answer for that at the moment, but that's an interesting rhetorical point because
Yeah, I would so be listening to radio. I would, because I was brought up with radio by my mother. In fact, my grandfather was a World War I transcontinental radio operator. I love radio. I would be listening to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm also very bullish on radio myself. Lydia, you've been working in college radio. Do you see yourself still working in radio after you graduate?
I would really like to. I will. I will. But you can't look at the situation that happened with you, Steve, and be fully positive about it. I think there will always be a place for radio because no matter how often you listen to Pandora or Spotify or whatever it is, that personal connection with the audience is something that people come back to. And no matter what, there will be a need for that in some form. So I feel like radio, whether it's terrestrial radio or solely internet, there will be something in the future for sure. But it's a little the outlook is not fully positive for me either. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, because I'll tell you, at Emerson College, which is one of the top radio programs in the country, they cut their major. You can't major in radio anymore, and they did that in my span of being there in the past 4 years. And that's unbelievable, because WERS is one of the highest rated college radio stations in the country for years, for decades. It's been at the top, and they cut their program. So if you see something like that happening, it's a little discouraging. But I do feel, like I said, no matter what, that connection with the audience, people long for those personal connections. And no matter what, there will be something that will fulfill that need. And in some form, radio will be there. Will it be as prevalent as it has been? Maybe not. But I'm hoping that the little sliver that's still there, I can be part of.